Welcome to Cathy'sRight.com, your pit stop for the conservative mind, heart, and soul. I'm Cathy. It's time to retool and refuel. If you're like me and you watch a lot of TV and listen to a lot of radio, you're starting to think that today's youth is a lost cause. You're starting to think that, are they all out there tearing down statues and doing ridiculous things and acting a fool at airports? Well, the answer to that is no. There are some young people who are doing positive things in positive ways and actually making the world a better place. We all know that evil still exists in the world. But when there are good guys and bad guys, I like to stay on the side of the good guys. And one of those good guys is today's guest, a volunteer for Operation Underground Railroad. Their mission? To save children and end child trafficking. Yes, there is a disgusting industry of child sex trafficking, and it's happening all over the world. And I think because of the porn industry, mere human degradation isn't enough anymore for these perverts. And thanks be to God, people like, Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard founded Operation Underground Railroad to save these children from exploitation and sexual abuse. It's not a comfortable subject, but it's important that we recognize it. If you want to exorcise a demon, you got to call it by its name. And its name is child sex trafficking. Yes, prayer works. And I pray about this a lot. I pray about those children. I pray for them. I pray that this comes to an end. We can't allow this to happen in our country or in the world. But there are some people doing something about it. O.U.R, Operation Underground Railroad. Thank you, Jesus. Because if it weren't for them, if it weren't for people like them, people who are not afraid to confront an uncomfortable, disgusting problem, someone who's willing to do the work. And I have one such person today. Ron Tran is here with me today. And this is Nomad7. And we're here to talk about his new chapter in his life, about Operation Underground Railroad and what they're doing about a significant problem in this world. Welcome, Nomad7.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
So tell me, how did you become interested in Operation Underground Railroad?
So it actually took a little bit of time, but so I used to teach without a degree. I was in the process of getting one, and then college didn't work out. I dropped out, and I was offered a teaching position overseas in Mongolia. I did that little stunt. I came home. I worked my usual 9 to 5, but of course overworked, underpaid. So I took an extended 2-week vacation. I did a cross-country road trip from coast to coast. Oh, it was beautiful. And I did a lot of, soul searching and praying. And, I figured, there has to be more for my life than just working, clocking in, clocking out, and working for somebody else this way anyway. And then, God led me to O.U.R, Operation Underground Railroad. They had their chapter in Virginia, in Richmond. And that was the actually first day when I got there that they were, holding a public meeting. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm excited. I'm ready. Of course, being young as I was and naive, I was like, all right, well, I've got a little background in security. Maybe I could go kick down doors or provide Overwatch or something cool like that. But that didn't turn out to be the case. Of course, they have their own strict requirements to join their operations team, their jumper teams. So, I opted to volunteer, see what it was about. And thankfully, I got to meet one of their operators and I got to listen to their stories. And I've got to learn a lot more. And so that was the beginning. 3 years ago, I stepped up, and said, okay, let's do it.
Well, God bless you for that, because I felt led by God as well.
Yeah.
It was really uh, I've been in a ministry at my church since since I gave birth to my children, basically, but also when I started, helping out at church, and that helped me a lot, and it helped other people, and I loved that feeling. I just loved. There is a feeling that comes with a joy that comes from um, helping someone and serving others that is inexplicable except for in Christ for me.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so when I personally was very naive. I didn't know that all of these horrible things were happening to children in the world. I had no idea while I was raising my children. I had no clue. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I got into my art, because that was kind of my escape to get away from my kids.
Yeah.
It was like, when you do your art, you're kind of present in the moment while you're painting. And just
Yeah.
like golf, I golf too. So it's like you're in that moment. All you think about is that brushstroke, that one there. And but then I discovered the horrendous things that were happening in the world, basically online and on TV. And I didn't even have an
Right.
inkling. And then I was thinking, what can I do? What can you do? And I'm like, you're young, and you must have gone through something similar, though.
So actually, kind of. Um, it's a bit of a story. So back in high school, I think I was like around 15 and a half, 16-ish. I just got my uh, license or something like that. And so here's the thing. One of my high school friends, we grew up since middle school,
Mhm.
decided to run away during a spat with her mother. And it got a little concerning because her mother was not able to reach her, find out where she was. Um, None of her friends, allegedly, they didn't know where she was either.
Mhm.
And me being the personable guy that I was and am with my friends, I care about them very deeply.
Mhm.
And so when I heard that, there were search parties being drawn up to look for her, door to door knocking, I couldn't do it during the day because I'm at school,
Right.
but, at night, I had a little bit of flexibility. So being the teenager that I was, I did my best research, Wikipedia, right? Like, where would a teenager run away to? What's the best place to hide from parents? The whole Google search uh, teenage algorithm that you could come up with at the time, And
How long ago was this?
let's see, graduated. So around 2012.
Mhm.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So during my research, I came upon, of course, your usual like prostitution, and then, what might happen for runaways, exploitation. And then I ran into something called child trafficking.
Mhm.
And, at that time, just initially I thought, okay, so I know what a child is, that's technically what we were as students,
Mhm.
still going through school. And I know what trafficking is kind of. It's kind of like cars stuck in the freeway, the highway, right? And
Mhm.
so, click the link, boom, Wikipedia rabbit hole. And then, you look at all of this description of child exploitation, what happens to them, how young they can be. And, I got scared. I acted on impulse, and I got into my car late at night. I posted a little thing on Facebook on the group search page on Facebook, and it was like, "Hey, going to DC tonight. Anybody want to come and help? Look." And of course, all the adults are sleeping. They got work the next day, whatever.
Mhm.
And there's not a lot of students like myself on that page. Um, so sorry if you hear the dog
It's
barking.
okay.
That's yeah. But I went out there. I went to the places in DC teenagers definitely shouldn't be.
Oh, there are some places in DC that are seedy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I definitely should not have been there, but I just couldn't have, lived with myself if I didn't make this effort.
Find
I
your friend?
yeah, to find my friend, I hoped and prayed that, I would find her, maybe kicking, screaming, maybe walking around in the dark, you
Yeah.
know, but fast forward a week later, thanks be to God, she was with a friend nearby who, didn't give her up. It wasn't exactly the smartest play, despite all of our efforts. But, I think the most beautiful thing about it was that our whole school um, celebrated the one that was lost. It was almost biblical, right? Like
Oh,
one of our own was lost, and we went all out to find her. And when we did, we celebrated like a family. We had a whole, you know, get together. We had fanfare, and her mother pulled me by the ear and took me aside and say, "Hey, I saw what you did. It's not safe at your age, right? What if you got lost? Now there'd be two of you kids missing, right?"
yeah.
Like, yeah, all right. But then she thanked me, and we all had a good hug. And, it was a good time.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, that's the strongest memory that I have that you know really pushed me to volunteer for O.U.R.
Wow. I think that, I wish I had the guts to to volunteer for O.U.R because I know they go into some situations that are not safe because you're dealing with traffickers and people who would harm you because obviously they harm children. Um, and that's what really got to me was that people could harm children in such a way that and nobody seems to be. I'm like, doesn't anybody care? I'm thinking there's got to be somebody who cares what's happening.
Yeah, the risk is exponentially greater because of the children that are involved, and they are, potentially hostage risks because if the traffickers find out what our jump teams, the operators that are conducting these rescues, as well as in tandem with the law enforcement, the hosted law enforcement in their country, you know, they have to do everything correctly. There's no margin for mistakes or error.
Mm-hmm.
So I really commend our operators for what they do wherever they are. They really are, you know, the top notch of their craft.
So when, for instance, hopefully, I don't know, I don't want to get too heavy into uh, politics, but that's what I do. I'm a,
That's okay. That's okay.
but I'm just saying, since the administration change, there has been an increase at our southern border, and I find when I saw this video of these two children being dropped over this white wall,
Right.
and then the smugglers, the traffickers just took off.
Right.
And I'm thinking, what if the camera hadn't been there? What if that camera hadn't been, and how much of the space of that wall have other children been dropped without regard for their safety or what will happen to them? And then I've done some research about what's going on now because now it's not even illegal for a smuggler to smuggle children into the country. They don't even arrest them anymore.
The public policies regarding the southern border is definitely one for major concern. Our founder, Tim Ballard, actually presented to, I believe, Congress and said, he wasn't advocating for a change in policy, but more for the actual physical structure along the border,
Mhm.
actual walls and um, ports of entry. That's his main purpose of his speech while he was there,
Mhm.
because there were witnesses, there were victims, survivors that came through the border and, basically conveyed during their aftercare sessions that, why weren't there more, ports of entries? Like, so, we have our border checkpoints. Those act as funnels
Mm-hmm.
for, regular traffic, right?
Yes.
If we could have more legitimized, again, ports of entries along the border, we could station, more border patrolmen and women at these entries that are trained to look for these smugglers, these human traffickers, and they would be able to, again, read the body language of the children, the adult that's accompanying them. They'd be able to conduct their investigation a little bit better instead of having to, patrol miles and miles of empty or unsecured land that can be, physically crossed as easy as going under or over barbed wire, or these standard fences that don't reach below a point that does not block access to tunnels. I don't have the specifics on all of the methods that smuggling occurs on the border, but
Right. But I mean, definitely something better than what I saw in that video.
Right.
It's got to be something better than that tall piece of fiberglass that they can just like throw a child over.
Absolutely.
We could do better than that. I think what's happening, in my opinion, is by having the open borders, by having all those gaps, by having, the smoke and mirrors of, people coming in here, families, and having all the border patrol in one area so that the drug smugglers can use the other area for more drug smuggling and child trafficking. And let's be honest, they're treating these children like merchandise, and then they recycle them.
Absolutely.
They send them back
Absolutely.
and forth with different people claiming to be family. And for a while there, I know for a fact, because I do have a friend that works for ICE, or now she's retired, but
Yeah.
she worked for ICE, and they were doing DNA testing. And that's why the children were separated from their so-called families, because their DNA did not match. Then they stopped during the Biden administration. Now Marsha Blackburn, I believe it is, she's got a Save the Children Act that she's trying to pass.
Right.
And make so that they have to do the DNA testing again, required, to make sure these children actually belong to the people that are claiming them. It's worse than that, though, because they've already, there's evidence people I have seen for themselves of children being literally dumped into a strange person's car and just taken on their word wherever in this country. And I think we can do better than that as a country. And I'm wondering, where the hell are all those kids in cages complainers?
Right.
For 4 years, we heard kids in cages. And they were so worried. And now they're literally dumping children into this country, nary a care for their well-being or the fact that they might be sold, and sometimes for parts.
Yeah. So the red market, which is basically the organ harvesting and selling equivalent to black market. Yeah, these people are very creative in their evil ways. Absolutely. There's no denying it. And I agree with, your emotion of frustration that, where are these people that, wanted these immigrants, out of these cages? Why are they not advocating for their safety? Not only their freedom, but their safety, as well as, the children. Like, what would it take for them to understand, what is actually involved with these, trafficking incidents, right? What is happening with our border patrol? What do they go through on a daily basis? And I'm not sure how many public reports they read about, what happens along the border, but all they see is what the media feeds them. And, I guess it's
the media spoon feeding them Like
Yeah.
they're spoon
The
feeding them.
Yeah, the short attention span of the average social media savvy citizen, just takes the headline, takes the picture, spreads the word. That's it. The lack of consideration and concentration enough to
Mhm.
actually do independent research, to actually ask the questions that need to be asked, like why are we still, spending billions of dollars on defense instead of home defense, right?
Mhm.
Why are we spending, for example, this upcoming uh, package of a few $1 billion, right?
Trillion.
Trillion, correct, right. Where did we get this, and why is it not being, used
Why are
to
we sending
address?
money to countries that hate us?
So yeah, again, foreign policy or foreign aid packages, right? Why are we not more, nationalized centered, right? Like about why are we not concerned about our unsecured borders and the civilians or that cross it, regardless if it's exploitation or on their own free will, right? If the citizens, right, that you represent are concerned about their safety, what
Like they
effort is being
say,
made? Yeah, like they say, what effort is being made? I'm not seeing very many.
I'm not
Um,
seeing the outrage. I'm not seeing the same constant. It's like it was like a motor engine. They were going kids in cages, kids in cages, kids in cages, kids. But it was like that was just a talking point that they just reiterate. They regurgitate what they've been fed,
right.
spoon fed on the television by left leaning. I would call them propagandists because they don't talk about truth. They don't do investigative journalism anymore. Because if they did, they'd know what we know.
It's all very opinion based, and that I find is rather deadly to any sort of actual uh, workable solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, I'll have to separate really quickly
Mm-hmm.
that O.U.R. From Mr. Ballard's perspective just wants physical points of entries, which include walls, for the safety of, again, the children that are being trafficked through,
Mm-hmm.
right? My personal opinion, um, honestly, I agree with his statement. I also agree that
I agree as
that
well.
yeah, I agree that Biden's policies regarding this issue is not effective. I read an article not too recently, a few months back, where uh, I think he's suspended. He says he's suspended
Mm-hmm.
this uh, program called Operation Talon, and that was where they would. I'd have to double check the notes, but they would have agents dedicated to finding uh, illegal immigrants that were repeat sexual offenders and
Wow.
ensure their exportation or expedite their exportation.
Right.
Again, I'll have to double check the notes, but I think that's definitely something to look into. Last time I saw it, I think like 18 AGs were trying to push back and get it restarted again,
Mm-hmm.
but that was the last time I checked on it. So,
Wow. I'm thinking. I'm not so sure, but I think I think it goes way deeper than what we're seeing. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I
oh, absolutely, I
But at the
understand.
same time, a lot of those conspiracies came true. Um, and I'm just worried because I'm worried for a country, but I'm worried for children worldwide because I have a friend, he's been on my show, Danny, and he says in Greece, it's a severe problem, child trafficking. There's areas in Greece, in Athens specifically, where it's protected by, I don't know if you want to call them cartels over there, but whatever the criminal element is.
Right.
But there are children that are being abused sexually there and all over the world. And so what I think is happening with with the open border policy, and I'm going to call it what it is because I don't care what they call it, but it's
Sure,
an
sure.
open border policy. But what I think that did was create a marketplace for the sale of children and women and boys, whatever. But they for the sale, because when you have it open like that, and people are coming from what 170 countries, that's what I've heard.
Plenty of countries.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're just filtering, not even filtering in, they're just coming in. We don't
Right.
know who they are, we don't know what they want or for what purpose they're here. However, when you're saying, oh, children with no parents, you got to be suspicious. You got to be suspicious on the side of caution, right?
So yeah, so this is a really great caveat to what I'd like to say next, because America is one of the top consumers and producers of child sexual abuse materials. You know, we are the demand. If there wasn't such a need for demand, there would be a need for supply,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a major reason of why they're coming through. If you look at the Polaris project, they have a heat map of all of the reported calls.
What is the
Uh,
Polaris Project?
the Polaris project is a really great resource and website that documents a lot of the hotline calls, the human trafficking hotline calls, and all the reports. And they give it extensive breakdown state by state and a lot of the demographics that can be publicly disseminated. And they have this map, a very blobby heat map, where it says, look, the hotter it gets, that means that's where a lot of trafficking is reported. And for Virginia, you see your concentrations. Nova, you got Richmond, you got I think Newport News, Norfolk area. But when I looked at it, I was looking at it from an educational perspective. I was like, okay, so the cities, they have some education on it. They know how, they have more programs, they have more organizations that can teach it.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the countryside? And I look at all the countryside, I look at all of these reports, and I go like, the traffickers, they can go unnoticed. They can go completely unnoticed. They can conduct whatever they want in the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not anyone to report it, because the people in the countryside, God bless them, they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out here in West Virginia, right? You see a little sign here and there, but out here, where in some parts, opioids are rampant. You have parents that will sell their own kids, American citizens selling their own kids to get the money for these opioids. There was a case that is publicly known where in a little suburbia area, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really shouldn't be called parents. These adults, these pair of adults, they gave birth to their child, and starting from the age of 6 months for the next 4 years of that child's life, they sold that child to adults who would come to that house to do unspeakable things to that child.
Oh God. Mm-hmm.
And I just can't fathom that we have lost our sense of community. Mm-hmm. In suburbia, how is it that, we as a community have lost touch with each other? We have become so cold and so callous to each other, where, we don't notice that these two parents with their kid never brings the kid out, or, they have cars coming in at strange times, and it's always different cars. No one looked and established a pattern. No one saw red flags. No one decided to report it in, or if it was reported in, maybe that's the fault and training of the department. I don't know the details on that end of the case, but imagine.
So they were doing this for their drugs?
Yeah.
Well, the drugs obviously Oh God, it's
But
depraved.
imagine 6 months. What
What?
that's when I talk to average adults,
Mhm.
about child trafficking, they go like, oh, well, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, they mature pretty quick nowadays and they know what they're doing with social media. But I have to ask them, like, with
A
this
baby?
case, baby, 6 months, not even a year old yet. And for 4 years, what? And then you have a very special community that believe age of consent should be lowered to 4.
Oh,
That's a very special community that
special.
I, yeah, I have to say it lightly, but
I
it
know
it
you're trying to be nice. I think I don't know how anybody could. I mean, for a normal person, you when a baby is a baby, everything instinctually, I would think, wants to protect the baby and also protect the innocence of the baby. How could anybody even be depraved enough? But here we are. People don't understand, and I don't know where you are on this, but people don't understand the extent to where the disconnect between love of humanity. I think it began way back with Adam and Eve, but I'm talking with the beginning of abortion, when we started disrespecting human life. And the ramifications of that have been people who can do mass shootings. I mean, disrespecting human life. If we can, slice and dice a baby in the womb before yanking it out of its mother and the mother be okay with that, that was the disconnect right there. And ever since that disconnect, this world has gotten more depraved. That's my
absolutely,
belief.
it's definitely a sin problem. On the case of abortion, I I will say this: um, abortion clinics in the areas with less economic standing, they are the one of the biggest facilitators for trafficking.
I
Not
believe it.
just child trafficking, but trafficking in general, because these pimps, these
Traffickers.
traffickers, they take advantage that if one of their girls gets pregnant, they just step in and say, hey, accidentally got pregnant, kind of want it out,
Mhm.
right? And the pimp has that control. They can always be there for every step of the way through the abortion. That way they can avoid the awkward questions. It's just in, out, pay, go, buy. I'm not sure if you have to pay for an abortion. I'm
Oh,
not
you
quite
do.
sure. Okay.
Some people do. I know. I have a friend who's a sidewalk counselor, and she tells me, yeah, sometimes it's as much as $1,500. It's like and the thing is, if somebody wants an abortion and then they change their mind, they don't give them their money back. They
It's yeah, for so much of a program to help the people,
they're not
profiting
helping
off of they're
anybody.
profiting off of it quite a lot,
Yeah, but the
right?
whole thing is, well, my point is, that's where the disconnect happens when the
Right.
mother doesn't care for her child enough that she will kill her own child. Then, of course, it stands to reason that if the child is born, she will sell the child.
Right.
It's that
Right.
that's where it's just that was the birth mark, if you will, of a lot of the world's depravity. I believe when you can make that disconnect as a mother, as a human being, as a father. I mean, we have. I know we have Rachel's Hope, Gabriel's Project. I'm a Catholic. I don't know, but anyways, but yeah, we have a lot of ministries that are set up for people who are victims of the abortion that aren't actually the aborted child, which is
Right.
it's the worst of it,
Right.
but the fathers who have no say. They have
Right.
no say when that my body, my choice. Except for
Right.
now, when it comes to getting the jab, now it's like
Or the
everybody.
draft.
Yeah, yeah. Except for now, it's all about science now. But it wasn't about science when you actually have an operation to kill your child. But I'm just saying, I'm not turning this into a pro-life thing, but it is about pro-life. I think the most pro-life thing you can do is to save children from trafficking. I mean,
Right.
because that's a complete disregard for their life. That's people who traffic and who abuse children. And I'm not going to even, I'm tired of using the word sick. It's almost a euphemism for what they do, because I mean, sick kind of implies mentally
Yeah.
ill.
Oh, let me tell you. So there was a documentary that tried to gain more sympathy for pedophiles by saying "I pedophile." I think that was the title for it. And oh boy, that was a kicker. Let me tell you. And then when I think it was Netflix, yeah, Netflix came out with their movie Cuties. It was
Oh, I sat
yeah.
through almost half of it and I could not take it. I
Oh
couldn't
yeah,
take it. It was like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, these little girls acting like in sexual ways. And how is that cute? You
Right,
know,
right.
can you remember when you were a kid, were you able to, I wasn't allowed to act out. I wasn't allowed to walk out of the house unless I was covered up.
I'm telling you, today's societies and uh, their they put their fetishes and their on a pedestal and push it towards society, and it influences our younger generation that don't know better and are easily manipulated into thinking this is normal.
Mhm.
You know, on the topic of pro life, right? If I think I agree with the argument that if we want to get rid of abortion clinics, let's start upping the education on sex ed. Now I want to be very careful because UNICEF, oh boy, UNICEF, they released and retracted an article where they did a research within I think 19 European countries and showed children under 14 pornography, and they yeah
Why?
for it because they claimed that denying a child viewage of pornography is a what did they say? Um, it was assault on their human rights or something like that.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, under the guise of human denying their children porn as a breakage of human rights, they said, show them porn. They're not ill affected by it. Okay, bud. Okay.
I think that porn is just an
Well,
I think the pornographers are to blame for a lot of what's going on. Because thinking about it, you can't unsee things.
right.
And once you see things that you probably shouldn't see, because things you shouldn't see those things. Nobody should see those things. It's hard to unsee them. I once saw a movie. This was a Hollywood movie. I'm not going to even say the name because I don't want to give anybody else bad dreams. But I
Right.
had this movie that I saw, and Robert De Niro was in it. I'm really mad at Robert De Niro. He ruined Goodfellas for me because
Oh,
I love Goodfellas, and until he started talking, and then I can't, when I watch it now, I see the character he was playing was not too far from the dude, but but yeah, when I saw this movie, he was in it, but he played actually the priest in the movie, but
right.
movie it was so disgusting what happened to these children who were put in this detention facility,
Right. Right.
and I remember because I couldn't sleep. I thought it was just going to be a regular movie, and I said I was a film major. I can watch anything. It's not going to affect me. And I couldn't sleep. And then I was thinking I couldn't unsee it. And they didn't
Right.
even show anything. They just implied
Yeah.
everything. And I literally, it took me months. Every time I would go to church, I would be praying, please God, erase all memory of that movie from
Yeah.
my brain because it was so hurtful and disturbing. And I can imagine if somebody got into pornography, what I've seen people say who are who are doing what you're doing as well, is that what happens is with these guys, with not just guys, but mostly guys, is that they'll see pornography and then they'll want to do that, and then they'll say, and then that doesn't satisfy them enough, and they up the ante, and then they have to go a little more depraved and then a little
Correct.
more depraved,
Correct.
and that's how they get to the, oh, now
Pornography
children.
is absolutely a drug. It's
Mhm.
absolutely the new drug. And I stand with the program Fight the New Drug, which, is a huge testimony as to why pornography is first of all, addictive, and secondly, abusive.
Mhm.
And, it exactly says, as you have stated, when you go for that first high, you come on down and then you go for the next one, but you can't reach it. So you go for something a little darker, a little rougher, a little bit more exciting, right?
It's like
Eh,
the gateway drug to.
right. And so here's the thing.
Mhm.
Um, Pornhub, I'm not sure if you've heard anything about it, but it is under a lot of fire. It is being investigated so hard, especially from the Canada side, because that's where one of their host servers are, I think.
Mhm.
But Pornhub, for years, have been sharing rape videos, underage rape videos. And from the testimony of their executives, from the very words from the very man of in his mouth, he said all videos are manually moderated and approved. So that means they knowingly approved the uploads and the content for child rape videos. Now, there's a case where I believe, 14-year-old was raped and recorded, and it was uploaded onto Pornhub, and people made, or rather, the company made money off it. It took about, I want to say, 7 years. Again, I'll have to double check the numbers, but it took about 7 years of legal fighting just to get the video down. Now, first of all, that's a whole mental scarring that these victims will tell you. They're scared someone might remember the video, they might see the video. Where else has it been shared, right? Um, they they have that reputation now that they've been on Pornhub, right? And their name is no longer safe, right? Possibly. Um, and for 7 years, that Pornhub profited financially off that material.
Are they still open? I mean, have they been shut down?
They've been backpedaling so hard ever since the launch of the investigation in Canada, and there's a big movement here trying to. This is apart from O.U.R.
Mhm.
There's a big movement here trying to get Pornhub investigated from the U.S. side, the federal side,
Mhm.
so that again, these executives can be held accountable,
Mhm.
and the uploaders can also be held accountable. But this leads me into a very important topic, the Earn It Act, which we will be holding a public seminar at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today.
Yes, I'm
Where,
hoping to join the Zoom there.
oh yeah, it'll be recorded to share as well. So I really hope that you jump on in for that one.
I will
But
definitely share.
perfect, please do. But this act will give law enforcement a more proactive approach to conducting investigations regarding crimes against children, sexual abuse material, without you know there's a big argument from the bigger tech industries, like, oh, this is going to jeopardize privacy and all that, but they have no grounds against it. They
Mhm.
have no grounds. They they're all hot air in their argument, because if you know if you are a company that doesn't profit from sexual abuse or child sexual abuse materials, rather, you
Mhm.
know you vetted your clients, right? What do you have to fear? It's
Mhm.
like, no, this is all about privacy. It was like, all right, well, the privacy was taken from someone else.
Mhm.
And are you going to hinder the investigation for this?
Mhm.
Is this what you're telling me? There's a lot of um, good counterpoints
Mhm.
that you'll be able to hear during the seminar later today.
Oh.
But I think this act needs the biggest public push. If we can't stop the physical threat at the border, if we
Mhm.
can't uh, crack down on every case in every state, every town, every city, every neighborhood, then we can at least give the tools and the benefit for our law enforcement agencies and partners and departments to do their job more effectively and
So what do
rescue
you
these.
think about them trying to defund our police while the police is our first line of defense?
Right.
I think this is it's not going to fly. I think that once people you are thinking, I'm thinking common sense wise, but you would think that with the uptake right now of crime because of the defund police ridiculousness, that people will feel the sting of that and they'll go, okay, we were wrong about that, right? We will
Oh,
self
absolutely.
correct.
I think there was a article string rather, where Baltimore P or yeah, Baltimore City um, did that avenue where they defunded the police, and a lot of cops either walked or had different or reduced hours or whatever, and there was a huge exponential uptick in crime.
Yeah,
And it was
surprise,
like, where,
surprise.
and then the whole city leadership was like, where are our police? And then it was like, oh right, we defunded them.
Duh.
So defunding the police, I understand, was a knee-jerk reaction and a very livid uh, and hotly discussed topic as it is
I
still.
think it was a punitive thing. I think they were saying, oh, well, this police officer was bad. I mean, there's going to be a bad one. Out of 100 people, there's going to be one bad person, period, in any given organization. What
What?
police
Yeah.
are going through now is exactly what the Catholic Church went through, 10 years ago with the huge scandals and the abusive priest who are gone now, thank God, but they're still, I am a Catholic and I will be a Catholic till the day I die. And I will not leave Jesus because of Judas. So tell
uh
me about R. Tell me, you know what I did before I decided to put my artwork in Art for R? Art for,
sure.
that,
O.U.R. Yeah.
yeah,
I just spell it out. That's me.
yeah, O.U.R. Maybe that sounds better. Yeah, but before I put my artwork in O.U.R.,
Mhm.
I was thinking about it. I said, what can I do to help save children, from the comfort of my home? But
Right.
basically,
Absolutely.
what can I do? I have to contribute in some way. And what do I do every day? I paint every day. So I thought maybe how can I? Then I saw in the O.U.R. website art for O.U.R. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
absolutely.
yes. I mean, I can do something. I don't have to. I mean, I'm too scared. I'm a scaredy cat. I'm too scared to go to the border. I'm not going to get on a motorcycle like you do.
Please don't. Please don't. So yeah, I'd love to be on a motorcycle. Just to reference that really quick.
Oh,
I
yes.
don't I don't have one. I just love taking pictures of them.
I
But
love it.
so yeah,
You're funny.
you're welcome. But as for art for O.U.R, it's a
Mhm.
great website that helps support O.U.R through artistic means. It doesn't just depend on what you can paint or color or draw. It's crafts too.
Mhm.
If you go through the website, there's a whole selection of handmade items made by various people across the nation. I think even across the world, from our other supporters out there. But you know, the proceeds from the sales goes straight to O.U.R.
Mhm.
And O.U.R needs all the funding that they can get, right? Because they have three different departments that they have to manage.
Mhm.
Operations, conducting these rescues with the inviting law enforcement
Mhm.
agencies across the nations,
Mhm.
right? Aftercare, all their partners and the survivors that they rescue need supplies,
Mhm.
and that includes legal fees too, for the prosecution of the traffickers.
Mhm.
And of course, the least spent on is the volunteer side, which is what I'm a part of.
Mhm.
And we would love to be able to push with OUR, more marketing strategies, more PR visuals, aside from documentaries. Like, we'd love to run commercials about OUR and say, hey, join the fight, get in, let's go. Something like that. But all of the funding, well, a very big majority of the funding goes to the first two departments, operations and aftercare. So, art for OUR is a blessing to see. I think it was very much inspired by one of our volunteers, and we depend on our volunteers for their kind of creativity, right? From whatever talents that they have. I know in Florida they're gonna host a motorcycle ride that I can't be there for, but
I bet you want to be.
I want to be there so badly. But that sort of creativity we love to be able to share, encourage, and see grow. So
I think it's a worthy cause. Before I decided, because I've heard, negative things, and I'm thinking, what negative things? Well, there was rumors, and whenever you try to do something good,
right,
there's going to be somebody that tries to throw a wrench in it or say something bad about it, or actually it's kind of Satan. Because basically Satan's gonna say, oh, we can't be saving children, there's got to be something wrong here, right? And so I looked at all of the negative stuff as much as I could find to see if there was a reason to talk me out of contributing, and I looked at it all, and I was so convinced to be a part of OUR after watching the bad news that was going around. I watched it all. It was disgusting, but when I looked through it and I filtered through it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so diabolical. It was like what they tried to make it look like it was all about money. Kind of like UNICEF, which is really all about money, but this is like, okay, it costs money to live. It costs money to do these operations. It costs money. And then especially like with someone like Tim Ballard, you think he's doing this 100% of his time is going towards this. This is the same thing they did to Candace Owen, by the way, when she started coming on the scene, and she would charge a fee after a while because she's spending 100% of her time, doing speeches and debates, and so if you're spending that much of your time, how are you going to pay your bills unless you get some sort of financing?
Right.
And
absolutely.
So everything costs money. And so when you realize that, you go, oh my gosh. So basically, whenever you try to do something good, expect somebody.
Pushback. Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be somebody that's going to say, oh, they're in it for the money, blah, blah, blah. But you look at what they're doing and how many people they're saving. And if I can be a part of that, I can sleep better at night. I do. I sleep better because I get up and I do my art, and it's not just for nothing. I mean, I got to one point when I first started painting, when my children were young, and my house was just full of paintings. I mean, there was no room left on the walls.
Right.
And so I was forced to go put my stuff in a gallery, literally, because there was no room left on my walls. And so I said, well, I'll get juried in, but I'm not formally trained. So you put a few pieces in, and then they vote, the artists that are in the gallery already, and they jury you in. And I was surprised that they said yes. I'm like, oh, okay, then you can put my art there, and I have more walls now. And but actually, I sold a few there, but I sold way more just out of my house from people visiting, because I would bring them home from the gallery, and I'd leave the price tag on there, and people would, oh, I like that. I'm like, well, you can have it for whatever that.
Right.
But then I thought, this is a way to do some good. And I love what O.U.R is doing. I love that they're saving children, because this industry of trafficking is about to surpass the illegal drug trafficking industry. Surpass it. That's how many depraved people are in this world.
So yeah, it's discussing the depravity of man, and the economics of it. Um, you're right. OUR does need the funds, but it's not all about the money. It's about saving these kids. And you
But you
would
got to
think,
go where they are. And how are
right?
you going to get there?
You would think that, um, a lot of people would be open to, helping an organization that, rescues kids, or at least learning about how to be involved in their own community.
I
I
would just
remember,
like to see one of those people that said kids in cages for ad nauseum last year. I'd like to see one of them say, you know what? I'm going to donate to O.U.R. That would redeem all of their crap that they were saying last year. That would redeem them in my eyes anyway, because
yeah,
if they really care about children like they say they do, then do something.
right. I mean, we're not asking for, your life savings. You can do $5 one-time donation or $5 a month.
Mhm.
Skip that cup of coffee. That Starbucks cup of coffee is a little overpriced anyway, right?
Oh,
You
I
know,
would never even go. I won't go to Starbucks just on principle
right.
because I have coffee maker at my house. I like regular coffee. If I want super sweet coffee, I can put whipped cream on it myself. I can do all of that, but it's only 10 cents here.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, like I said, there's so many ways to support OUR. Monetarily,
Mhm.
volunteer, be a volunteer. We need it.
I'm looking
So
into that too because it turns out one of the volunteers for O.U.R lives out where I live.
perfect. If you go to planyourrescue.org,
Mhm.
that's the sister site for OUR. They have
Mhm.
a map where all the team leaders are,
Mhm.
and their we'll call it jurisdiction. And you can find the team leaders, get LinkedIn. What I'm after particularly
Mhm.
are finding more leaders for the places that we aren't covering.
Mhm.
That's This is why I love traveling. This is why I'm a nomad, right?
Mhm.
I want to go out there, meet people, tell them my story, hear their story, and let's live life together and get in this great fight, because
This is the best fight.
this is the best fight. I cannot fathom a future where I have to worry about my kids and their technology, their fangled technology, because I didn't grow up with it. That's an excuse. That is
Yeah.
an excuse from the bottom of everyone's heart, because you didn't grow up with a car.
Mhm.
You were born with a car, and you didn't like live with it as a pet, and grew into, now you use it. You had to learn it. You had to
Mhm.
learn defensive driving skills. You had to learn how to be aware. You had to learn your own limits, like, hey, I'm getting tired, I'm getting a little drowsy, let me pull over, right?
Mhm.
You've learned all of this. What is stopping you from learning how to keep your children safe on their phone, on their tablet, on their video games? Is it a big headache? Yes, but that's parenting, right? Back
Mhm.
when I was teaching, you know, some parents would treat school as like a daycare, 8 hours, go home, do whatever, or go wherever, come back, get the kids. Okay. But now, after COVID, parents are figuring out the hard way. Now I really got to teach my kids while they're at home. Now I really have to spend time with it. This is what it means to be a parent at home,
Mhm.
right? Things have changed so much. Another aspect of COVID is that child trafficking jumped exponentially because of, you know, the isolation that these kids were in,
Mm.
right? OUR has a program for high school and college kids, especially, called Students Against Trafficking. And it's a beautiful program run by a separate director, not a volunteer team leader. But this is a great program for kids to be engaged in, be active in, to learn the signs,
Mhm.
and most importantly, possibly save each other from this industry. Because look, they know their lingo.
Mhm.
They understand how to communicate to each other, where it's like, okay, I'm learning information that is very in depth, but it isn't invasive.
Right.
Like, they can be comfortable to talk to me, and they can notice a lot more with their friends, because they
Mhm.
hang out with them so much more than even their parents or their teachers. Because look, sometimes it happens, right?
Yeah.
You come home from work, your kid comes home from school, you're both tired, you've had a long day, and you might miss something. God bless all the parents out there. They all try their best. but sometimes a little help from their friends, like their kids' friends,
Mhm.
is exactly what they need to understand like something is wrong. You
Yes.
know, so this is exactly the program I hope all high schools and colleges adopt. You
Mhm.
know, maybe some middle schools if they can handle it, but you know, these kids, like when I grew up, you know, we had sex ed, we had stranger danger, we had, you know, a slight talking to from our PD if we were lucky about grooming, but that
Mhm.
was it, right? We don't have something regular, something substantial. And, you know, I say this recently lightly, but, you know, we recently started installing RSOs and school psychologists.
Mhm.
Those weren't there before, right?
What's
We
an
need them.
RSO?
Oh, sorry, SRO rather, school
SR.
resource. Yeah,
Okay.
school resource officer.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, we need to be expanding our program on keeping our kids safe, right? Expanding their education on the dangers that are out there, right? They're
Especially
all,
over the internet. Especially.
especially, you're absolutely right, because look, we've almost perfected a factory line of education, right? Block by block, they have lunch, block by block, and out. Some
Mhm.
maybe recess for the little ones, but there's no dedicated program that is universal for these kids where excuse me, where you know they teach the dangers of trafficking. They
Mhm.
teach the signs of trafficking. They teach, you know, what it means to be groomed, right? I mean, here's an embarrassing little story about mine. I almost got catfished when I was in middle school to sending money to a whole complete stranger because when Facebook was new to me, and I was like, oh, everybody's real. These pictures
Mhm.
are real. You know, these people are real. I was like, oh, they need money. Maybe I can send it. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But look, I was naive and I didn't understand better because no one taught me better.
Mhm.
This is the danger of the internet. You know, let
I've
my
seen I've seen red flags with my grandson. I've seen red flags on his when he plays these games.
right.
And when he's playing these games, it sounds like he's talking to a teenager, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking that can't be good because I don't know this teenager. And it doesn't sound like they're talking to each other, but then I am not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable. And I will take the iPad away. I'm like, he goes, what do you want me to do? I go climb a tree or dig a hole,
Right.
do
Yeah.
something. Don't don't sit on that thing all day talking to some stranger. It looks like he's talking to a stranger. And it
Yeah.
can't be safe to me. It's just like it's like letting him talk. When I was growing up, I'm older than you, and I'm not gonna. Well, I'm old, anyways. So, but I mean, I
You
remember my mom said, "Kathy, you talk to too many strangers. Don't talk to strangers." And I was naive as well. I would talk to anybody and everybody. I didn't have any idea that people could scoop me up and take me away. I had no
right.
idea. I still talk to strangers. It's really bad. but
Right.
but now I'm older and I'm armed. so,
Right. I
so
think there's a good quote. I don't know who said it, but it's wisdom is wasted on the old and youth on the young, right?
yeah,
Because you know, when you're young, you don't know anything. But when you're old, you know a lot more now, but that's in hindsight afterwards. You know,
yes.
it's our responsibility, as I say in our seminars, you know,
Mhm.
it's our responsibility as adults to be the adults, you know, where we've grown accustomed nowadays to, you know, if the kids cry, if they're bellyache, or we just want, you know, to relieve a little
Fix
stress
it.
off our headache, you know, we just throw a phone at them, a tablet at them, get them the newest shiniest thing, and say, okay, now go on your own.
Mhm.
Like, wait, there's a lot of problems with that approach. You know, this isn't to criticize parents who do that. It's just I want to make it clear that there are dangers to leaving it unchecked. GPS, right? If you use your phone and you know you have an app where you know it geotags where you live, right? You know, let's say Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, right? Now, whoever wants to prey on that child that's already seen the geotag can go like, okay, now I just need to look for maybe a park that has this specific tree and this angle. Because look, here's a strategy, right?
Mhm.
You get the geotag, you look around, you see the picture, you go onto Google Maps, you go to street views. You can literally walk through their neighborhood without leaving your desk. That's how dangerous it is.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, I'm not saying this happens every time, but that's just exactly how
That's just
dangerous it
one
is.
of the ways that it happens.
Right. And grooming doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it does, but these predators establish a relationship over time,
Mhm.
and they nitpick all of the flaws and mistakes that parents will make. You know, it's inevitable. Parents will make it. Adults, we do make it. And
Well, we
they take
trust too
advantage.
many people. That's that's the thing is our we trust too many people. I was playing a word game with my grandson on his uh, iPad,
Right.
and you know you get a bunch of letters and see how many words you can make out of the letters. And this is it's been fixed since this was a while back, but we were doing this word game and then a commercial came on. It was pornographic. It was a kid's game we were playing. It was a simple little like 5 letters. How many words can?
Yeah.
And then there was like the commercial where two people,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my gosh! And like, and how often? I said, have you seen this before? He goes, oh yeah, that's come on lots of times while I'm doing. So his mom had to fix it so that he doesn't have anything that has ads on it. You
Right.
know, but
Right.
but it was just so disheartening. That's another. It's like all these things led me to O.U.R. because I started seeing the dangers for him, and I'm thinking, how do parents not know? When my son was in Korea, and he wrote to me about something he found on YouTube, and he said, "Don't let honor, don't let your don't let my grandson." Watch this kind of program on the YouTube because
Right.
it gets graphic while you're not looking.
Right.
And he showed it to me and I was like, oh, this is it was it was awful. It was something grown-ups shouldn't even be looking at. So they're insidious. It's diabolical. It's insidious. They sneak things in. Why do they want to make children's mind corrupt like that? What is the
Can you
payoff?
imagine that YouTube is a, is practically a softcore porn site now with their naked yoga programs that they hold publicly? I mean, like,
Yeah,
you know, that they can hold that publicly, but they will
censor.
demonetize. Yeah, they will demonetize. They will censor everybody else. Like your YouTube is there has to be an alternative. There has to be an alternative that is safer for our kids, or you know, parents have to get wiser and make it safe for their kids.
Yeah, there's
So
got to be more alternatives. I've tried. I mean, I do Facebook. I mean, that the only way I that I know to promote my show and my blog is through social media. I don't have a billboard anywhere, you know.
yeah,
And so I'm thinking, how else do I am I going to get the word out and things like that? So I'm forced to really use it, but at the same time, I'm trying not to let them use me
yeah,
because that and they are using every one of us. I mean, you would think, why don't they delete people that are so terrible? Like they put me in Facebook jail all the time, and my
yeah,
and all my friends, we're all jailbirds basically from Facebook. And so when they do that, but they allow a site for cannibalism, I'm like,
right,
seriously,
right.
what are the community standards really? What are these?
Honestly,
I want to see these community standards.
I remember Facebook completely deleted my account because of how active an advocate I was, public advocate against child trafficking. And I was really disheartened for a little while because I had 10 years of good photos, all my friends on there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I could care less that, you know, I lost a lot of my friends' listings.
Mm-hmm.
But those pictures, for me, pictures help where memory forgets.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could have them back. But Facebook, one day,
Oh, they're
one
going to
day,
cancel me eventually. I'm sure. I'm sure. But I don't. I mean, we're on a fixed income. We're retired. I don't live and
God
breathe
bless. God
because
bless. Enjoy that life.
oh yeah, and we do exactly what we want to do, and so that's the thing. But this is my cause. Basically, is to spread the word that yeah, I'm a sinner and I still love Jesus.
Yeah.
Basically, and to do whatever good I can do before they cancel me, because they cancel all. Uh,
If they don't agree with you, they get rid of you.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's too bad for them. But you know what? There's a nice warm spot waiting for them one day.
Hey, they will reap what they will sow, or what they
Yes,
sow.
and
But
you know what? Hopefully, they're saying that Trump's starting a new social website. They're saying a lot of people are starting new ones. I've tried some of the other ones. Like
yeah,
I went on.
Parlor and
Yes,
Webkin or whatever.
I tried
Yeah. MeWe.
MeWe.
Yeah.
Somebody told me about MeWe, and my profile clearly says that I'm married, right? And
Yeah.
I got hit on like boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, do you realize I'm almost 60 years old and have no interest in breaking in a new dude,
Yeah. I'm
No
telling
interest
you. I'm
whatsoever. It took me years to get my husband to where I can deal with him. I love him, but I mean, a man is different than a woman, and we have to learn to oh, I forgot to put on do not recess do not resuscitate to my phone.
do not resuscitate. Oh boy, those DNRs, those pesky DNRs.
I'm turning it off. Yeah, I call it do not resuscitate. Turn it off.
That's funny.
But yeah, those things. Yeah, I'm just waiting. The day will come because that's how they are. And all good people get deleted or go to Facebook jail. The bad people get to stay, though. They get to say whatever they want.
I don't know what is the cost for progressiveness, right? Like, what do we really like?
What
Are
are
we
we
giving
really
up?
going for? Well, you know what they're going for.
What are we sacrificing for the sake of so-called humanity, right? Like,
Yeah, so called right now.
yeah, like we're putting our kids in the crossfire because we bicker as adults and we can't come to a solid conclusion or compromise, and it'll be our kids that will suffer. And
They
so,
will. They
this
will
is
suffer. Our grandkids will suffer because of egos mostly. Um,
exactly.
it's egos and arrogance. It's like now I've got, I don't have to, but I guess young people have to learn all these new pronouns. And oh
I'm
my,
not. I'm
I'm
not.
not gonna do it. But
Personally, I'm not.
no, still, Bruce Jenner is still a dude in a dress, really. He really is. I don't have any animosity towards him or anybody who's struggling with that um dysphoria, whatever they're going
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for them and compassion for them, but I'm not gonna go into the delusionary place with them. I'm just not. I am not that girl. I am not gonna say, okay, you feel like, when I was a little girl, I wanted to be a movie star. And then you know what? I grew up and I took film class and I turned out to be a terrible actress. I cannot act to save my soul.
Yeah.
I saw myself on the video doing the scene. I'm like, oh, I'm terrible.
I'd love to be an actor, but at this time of my life, my congestion just would not be fit for the screen. I hate the sound of my own voice, so I'm
Oh
glad I
my
can't.
gosh, you have a nice voice.
Oh, I appreciate it, but when I hear it back, oh, it sounds terrible.
Well, I feel like if I do this on the microphone, I can make it sound really good. This is
Welcome to
Kathy.
101 Smooth Jazz.
Oh
Yeah, I hear
yes, you
it.
got it. You
I love
got it.
jazz. Oh man, I miss music. I miss listening to live music. I can't wait
Oh
to get back.
yeah. We had a brief interruption, but welcome back, Ron Nomad Tran.
strengths and their weaknesses. They can fill out everything on their profile. They can send a resume if they like, but I want to know more about them. What drives them to volunteer? If they're looking more for something, casual on the weekend, a little bit closer to home, we can work on a farmer's market session or something like that. If they're looking to be a little bit more engaged with their community, okay, great. I'll send them a few tasks, such as setting up an event, um, a small event at their, let's say, local firehouse or their favorite restaurant, or get me in touch with someone who can host us, or if they're part of another organization that also fights against human trafficking, we can partner up from a team perspective, and we can launch a co-op education seminar. There's a lot of opportunities that a volunteer can participate in with O.U.R that isn't limited to fully traveling and setting up a whole rigmarole of an event.
Mhm.
Um, but so, it really depends on how the volunteer wants to approach their volunteer time.
Thank you for watching kathysright.com, fighting the good fight for America. Ron Tran is welcome back here anytime. Yes, another American hero. God bless you. God bless America. Bye.
spread the good word.
Always.
If you have the inkling notion that this is a sign of trafficking, after you've done some research and training, right? Go through it with your leadership, make sure that you're all on the same page. Report it in. If it looks like imminent threat of bodily harm to the supposed victim, call 911. Let them take care of it. Let them do a wellness check. Let them figure it out. But as far as I can't stress this enough, because I've been turned away by ministries who, don't want to hear or let their flock hear about this. It's very frustrating for me because they're so concentrated on sharing the milk and honey of the word that they forget about the meat and potatoes that actually help the believer grow in their faith, that help that they have to understand there is sin in this world, and that some of them will need to be called to fight it, and this is part of it. Evangelizing, spreading the love, and reporting it in as needed.
And fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. All right. So I got to bounce. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for your time.
So much for the interview.
I hope you come back again.
Absolutely.
Maybe I could be on your podcast.
Absolutely. Maybe we can do a monthly thing. Maybe.
That would be awesome. I would like that.
All right.
Okay.
Bye. Take care.
Bye. God bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.